substantially closer to being able to get out on track for the first time in my brand new go-kart. So in terms of what I've done since the last video, I've done 3 major things. Yes, technically speaking, I've done more than that. It's probably more like 5 to 6 things in total. But the most important things, and the things that get me closer to getting out on track the fastest, are these 3 things that I want to talk about. So what they are, specifically, is the exhaust pipe, the sprocket and sprocket chain, and the chain guard. Those are the 3 most important, over everything that I've done this week, those are the 3 most important things that I've done. And essentially, what they help me with is, for example, the exhaust pipe. You may think, oh, you can't start the kart without an exhaust pipe. Yes, you can, but there's no muffler and there's no filter, which means that the fumes coming out are not going to be very good for the environment, firstly. And secondly, it is going to be so loud it may as well shake and literally shake the ground, like it's a actual racing car or something. I don't know if you've ever seen the V8 supercars or not, but when they're revving at the lights to start the race, the whole concrete on the grandstand shakes. You may as well have that if you start a go-kart without the exhaust pipe. It's going to be so loud. So that's the main thing, is pollution and also noise restrictions, so decibel restrictions. The other thing, and arguably even more important, is the sprocket in combination with sprocket and chain. It's like a 2-in-1 package. You have to have them both. And essentially what the both of them combined do is, just like on a bicycle and a bike, I never actually learned how to ride a bike, so I'm in uncharted territory here, but I'm pretty sure they have a sprocket and chain that allows you to get the drive from the gearbox to the rear axle, the rear tire, whatever it is, and that will then allow the power to go backwards, which is then how you move. And the go-kart has exactly the same thing. So you have a chain and it wraps around to the rear axle, which is where the sprocket is. So you go gearbox, chain to the sprocket, which is on the rear axle, and that allows you to have a rear-wheel drive kart, essentially. So that's the second thing that I did. And the third and final thing that I did was the chain guard, which is essentially it's a required safety thing. So that if the chain comes off, sometimes the chains get slippery and they just get loose and they get slippery if they slip off. When the engine's doing 14,000 revs, 14,000 RPM, that chain's gonna be moving really fast if it comes off, and you don't want that flying across the track somewhere, or worse, hitting someone, because you could cause them to crash, you could crack the visor on their helmet. There's so many things that could happen that are less than desirable outcomes. So if the chain were to slip off for some reason, you have a chain guard there to catch it so that it doesn't go anywhere. And it's literally just this piece of plastic that covers it. And although it's flimsy, you can bend it really easily, it's surprisingly sturdy, yes, you can cut it with a Stanley knife, but it takes some pretty decent force. You have to really have your Weet-Bix in the morning if you want to be able to cut through this thing. It's actually surprisingly hard, given the fact it's a flimsy piece of plastic. It's deceptively hard to cut through, which you do have to do if you want to fit it properly. So, in terms of what was the most challenging thing by far was probably the chain guard. In fact, no, not probably, it was definitely the chain guard. And it wasn't anything to do with just cutting the chain guard. It had nothing to do with cutting the chain guard. That was actually, it took time. Yes, it took time. And, I had to, measure twice, cut once, and, always cut a bit smaller in case it's actually right, because you can never put cut material back on. And so in the end, I ended up cutting it several times in the same piece. I ended up cutting little bits off in order to get it right and to get it to sit properly. But then you also got to drill 2 separate holes in, because that's how you actually get the thing on. There's actually a bracket almost. Yes, it is a bracket that the thread of a bolt sits on, which allows, and then you put a locking nut on the other side, that then allows you to hold the chain guard in place so it doesn't just fall off. But yeah, in the end we did it because it's on there. As you can see, it's on there, it's done. But it was a difficult process. It took multiple attempts. I jokingly said first try multiple times, as you do, because you don't want to admit that it took you 6 tries to put a chain guard on. You don't want to talk about the fact that it took you 4 different times cutting it in order to get the right amount off to fit it properly, and then took you 2 separate attempts on each of the 2 holes to drill to get it the right size, because it's like, oh yeah, that looks like it's the right size, and then you try and thread the bolt in, and it's like, yes, it's biting, but it doesn't quite go in, and then you're like, oh, it's not great, I'm going to try and get it back out, so you got to go through that whole process again. Meanwhile, you're cramped in this tiny little space trying to get it out, to then just go mark it again, drill the hole, make it bigger, and then put it in, hope you did it in the right place, otherwise you got to do it all again. That was a lot. It was by far the hardest part of anything I did this week. It was easily the hardest thing. So that was the chain guard. That was the hardest part by far. Then the next hardest one is probably the sprocket and chain. Reason is because I just haven't had to do it very much. Essentially, you just take the rear hub off, which I already have the tire on. That's something I did forget to mention. Actually, not really, because it is important. You need tires to go out on track, but again, it's just tires. You just buy them and put them on. It's not very hard, so I didn't think that was really worth mentioning. But yeah, I have the tires on now. Now you all know that. You just take the tire and the hub off of the rear axle, and then you just put the sprocket on, and then you bolt it on, and you're all good, and then you chuck the hubs and the wheels back on, and then you just got to align the chain. You have to align the sprocket as well, which is, you can do that once the hub is on. So you can just put the sprocket on roughly the right spot, chuck everything else on, and then you can just use a rubber mallet or something to bang it a little bit in order to line it up with the gearbox. And then you just chuck the chain on, basically. And, it's already comes pre-packaged, I don't know, it's like grease or something, I think, because the actual chain lubricant does leave this sort of tar, really weird sticky tar-like substance, but it wasn't that. I think it was grease. So it comes pre-packaged with whatever it is. I'm assuming it's grease that allows it to go on more easily, which then means that it's easier to go on. It's quite simple. It's just got some lubricant on it, so that way it's easier to chuck it on, because metal on metal contact is difficult. That was literally it. Aligning it wasn't that hard. I've done this 2 separate times before this, prior to this time. This is my 3rd time doing it, so I know what I'm doing. It really wasn't that hard. So yeah, I just did it, basically. The chain guard was something that I've done before, but I just forgot how hard it was. I think I was just like, it'll be fine. It won't be that hard. Oh, don't even get me started. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be fairly easy, but the sprocket and chain was what I expected the chain guard to be, which was actually easy, quite manageable. Took me 20 minutes, half an hour, moving at a slow, comfortable pace, making sure I didn't mess anything up. It really wasn't that hard. Which then leaves the absolute final thing, the last thing that I did of the day, which was the exhaust pipe. That was really easy, and I can tell you why. It's because I've done it 15 times before. That's an exaggeration. I have not done it 15 times, but I've done it enough times that I'm very accustomed to it, and the only thing that's even slightly difficult, again, that's an understatement, actually, it's tedious, it's irritating, is the springs on the exhaust pipe. They are, in order to actually hold the exhaust pipe in place, because it's a big thing, and it folds in on itself, and so it's difficult to hold it in place, and so to help with that, in terms of, you have a rubber mount that you can push the thing on, but to actually hold it in place there, you've got 2 brackets on the bottom of the chassis between where the actual metal of the chassis is and the rear crash bar. You have those mounts. That was pretty easy to put on. That wasn't difficult whatsoever. However, The springs that go onto that rubber mount, well, that go next to it, that allow the exhaust pipe to be held onto that rubber mount, they still get me to this. It is really difficult, which really stunned me because I've done the exhaust so many times. I've done it probably at least 3 or 4 times, which for me is like doing it basically like pretty much self-taught almost. That is like, I mean, as far as mechanics goes, you know, there's a very clear solution because go-karts are so mechanically simple. There's a very clear solution in front of you on how to do it. There's not much for you to teach yourself. It's just do it enough times that you know how to do it in the future. But for me, you know, 4 times doing something fairly simple like the exhaust pipe, that's plenty for me. And so I knew exactly what I had to do. Oh, I keep forgetting how difficult those springs are because I was like, you know what? The exhaust is going to be really easy. I could do that in 10 minutes. It did not take 10 minutes. In fact, I'd say it took 10 minutes to put the springs in. And the rest of it was done in 5 minutes because it was that easy. Seriously, that's literally how easy it is. The exhaust pipe can go on really quickly. The exhaust pipe goes on very, very, very quickly, and it's very easy, and it's not complicated. But those springs are so difficult. That's really everything I've done. Those are the 3 major things that I've done in the, what is this, part 4 of my mini-series. I don't know, actually. I'm assuming there probably is going to be a part 5 because I haven't done everything yet, because all I have left to do, essentially, is drill holes for the GoPro mount, which is on the NASU panel, so that you can see, instead of seeing next to me and sort of disrupting, I mean, I guess that the camera on the NASU panel will probably disrupt aerodynamics even more, but also a camera sticking out to the side doesn't help very much either. And it's a good thing to see lines and stuff like that, but I want to try something different, and so I wanted to put the GoPro, also like everyone as soon as you get past a certain point, which is generally the state championship, everything from state and above into nationals and further up and like that, they've all got the cameras on the front. Like, some of them have the cameras on the side as well, but everyone has the camera on the NASU panel, and only some have the camera on the side as well. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do about whether I want both cameras or just the one, but I want to try something different, so I want to do the camera on the front instead of the one on the side. So that's my thinking with that. Then I also have to do the seat, which is something I can't do myself. That's something that the kart shop has to do, which is perfectly fine. It's just putting a seat in. I know how to take the seat. I know how to take it out and put it back in, but it's more about, there's more things about, you know, you actually got to fit into the seat, and there's a procedure to follow to do that. I can't do that myself. So that's just letting the kart shop do that. And then, like, that's pretty much it. Then just arc it up, you know, kick it in the guts, and make sure it all works. Then take it out to the track, because we're ready to go. So that's pretty much it. Oh, the other thing as well I've got to do is a brake bleed. That's the other thing I just remembered. Because there's no brake fluid in the brakes right now, which is why I haven't started the kart yet. Because it doesn't have any brakes. So if I was to start it, I would be putting on the throttle and then letting it go, and then letting it slowly rev back down. Which is going to take a while because, again, these karts can go to 16,000 RPM. So it's going to take a while for it to go back down anywhere even close to idle. Even if it's like, even if it's 8,000 RPM, 6,000 RPM. Funny that 6,000 RPM is considered a low RPM on a go-kart, when you'd literally be like smoking an engine on a car. It would be screaming its lungs out. But on a go-kart, it's like, yeah, that's nothing. I just find that really funny. But yeah, so that's the reason why I haven't started it, because it has no brakes, basically. The brake lines are attached and everything. There's just no brake fluids, so if I hit the brakes, I think it would still work, maybe, but it would also probably seize the brakes. The kart's brand new and never seen the track before. I'm not doing that. I've spent a lot of money on this kart. I'm not about to seize the brakes and have to spend another $2,000 to replace the entire brake system because I wanted to try and arc it up and use the brakes with no brake fluid in it. I'm not doing that. I will not be doing that. So yeah, I've got to get the brake fluid and do a brake bleed. Then I've got the kart shop that will do the seat fitting because, again, that's something I myself cannot do. Then that's it. Kick it in the guts and then take it out to the track. So yeah, that's really about it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.